right. We'll begin here in just a minute. Okay. Is everybody on the platform ready?
Yes, ready to go, Meryl.
Okay.
Yes, ready to go.
And Val is always ready, I would ask. Okay. The time is shortly after the top of the hour, and I will begin. I'm sure we'll have other people wandering in the next few minutes. But hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know, my name is Meryl McBride, and I have the pleasure of serving as your host today. I want to welcome you to this installment of our VWEC Expert Series, in which we ask educational professionals to share their experiences and their insights into ways that virtual worlds can be used to engage students. We experienced an exciting several days at the Virtual World Best Practices in Education Conference a few short weeks ago. We wish to dedicate our session today to the VWBPE conference, highlighting a selection of presentations. Time does not permit us to do justice to all of the events at VWBPE, so permit us to focus on three themes or perspectives related to students, instructors, and technology. I will introduce each theme in order as we proceed. But first, please be advised that this presentation will be recorded and streamed on YouTube. You can find the stream at the address that we will insert into local chat. Feel free to post questions to chat during their talks, and I will collect them for them to answer at the end of the session. VWEC is committed to accessibility. If text will help you enjoy today's presentation, please click the sign at the front of the stage. You will get directions to our YouTube stream, which will give you captions for all who are speaking today. We hope that this is a help. And to our speakers, 3 speakers, each of whom will help us understand one of the perspectives. Our first speaker is John O'Connor, aka Acuppa in SL, from the Technological University of Dublin. He will highlight the student perspective. So, John, it's all yours.
Thank you, Meryl. So I have Speakeasy as well. The student poster region of the VWBPE concert features an impressive range of work from students around the globe. 6 projects from last year's VWEC Student Challenge project are presented in the pavilion, each with a short video, explanatory note card, and 2 posters explaining the origin of the work, the process of creation, and examples of the final pieces. Proceeding around the pavilion, we start with a celebration of Slovak culture by the University of Saints Cyril and Methodius in Trnava, Slovakia. I'm sure I pronounced that incorrectly. The student team say that the serious simulation is notable for the fact that it doesn't use any purchased items. They created everything themselves. The exhibition uses a traditional cottage to showcase the cultural extravaganza dedicated to authenticity and accessibility. The second team from the same university took a very different approach to their project. Titled Facts or Misconception, it is a quiz dedicated to demonstrating the importance of discrimination and the search for truth. Reacting to the declining reputation of science and an increasing tendency by the public to fall for half-truths and misconceptions, the game was challenging to develop due to the amount of research that went into the content. These students also built their own structures for the project. They reported that they learned how to build in a virtual world, a new way to approach interactive content, and the importance of discrimination. Next up, we have 2 teams from Çağ University in Mersin, Turkey. The first is a universal virtual museum that was designed to present the most important objects from the best museums and galleries around the world. Largely developed by one enthusiastic and hard-working student, and featuring a thoughtful approach to accessibility, this project also demonstrates an impressive grasp of building skills achieved in a very short time. Çağ University's second team presented the Dreamability Playground, where joy knows no limits. The students set out to create a space that is a haven for leisure and laughter that transcends age and abilities. Oh, thank you, sidearm. The use of bright colors and bold design ensures that the build is also accessible and welcoming. It features games, a play area, picnic tables, all encouraging communal enjoyment. Information through the ages. by the San Jose State University in the United States concentrates on reflecting changes in the recording of information in a very grand classical style public building to support history studies and library science. While this building itself was purchased, many, in fact most, of the exhibits were built and scripted by the developing team. Authenticity and accuracy were underlined through citing sources, and the selection represented both Eastern and Western traditions. The final poster, and please excuse the poor quality of the images, screen grabbed at the last minute. The final poster is a charming piece from high school students in the Sulawabangsa Mulia Metaverse School in Indonesia. The video is professionally presented by a 13-year-old student who explains the purpose of their exhibition is to present science and art through a study of the refraction of light. The project demonstrates a sophisticated and mature understanding of both subjects on their own terms. She goes on to explain that she worked on this with her 16-year-old friend and their teacher. This is a very impressive piece of work and justifies the inclusion of children in the student challenge. So that was the student poster space at VWBPE. Next, let's look at a spotlight talk. A team of Cha University students studying meta-entrepreneurship, Chala Solak, Bervin Paktas, and Anna Kanatan, presented student projects in the metaverse, Student Perspective. They shared their experiences setting up companies in Second Life as part of their course. First was Green Heaven, with the goal of providing gardens based on sustainability and accessibility for everyone to experience paradise. The next was a stylistic hearing aid tailored for Second Life that was affordable to those with hearing impairment, while also being a stylish accessory and for sale through the marketplace. They also offered customization for an additional fee. The third project is a furniture design company called Phoenix Products. This specializes in sustainable items, including a sofa, an accessible bedroom suite, and kitchen. They also reported on the development of a historical project to recreate the Mamur Castle. Most interesting, I thought, is a space to offer professional counselling support for students, along with well-being guidance workshops to help with a balanced mental health program. The platform will allow for convenient access to students, regardless of location or circumstances. Finally, the Dreamability Playground offers a range of accessible and inclusive games and toys with safety as a priority. The colourful and enticing results are both charming and inviting. There was a good attendance at this talk, and it was followed by a lively Q&A session. The students all exuded enthusiasm and an impressive sense of entrepreneurial ability, which they intend using as they continue in Second Life. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Our second presenter is Marie Vans from the College of Engineering at Colorado State University, and she will offer her insights into the instructor perspective, the second of our three perspectives. It's all yours, Marie.
Thanks, Merle. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I too am going to use Speakeasy. I have to advance the slide. All right. So my name is Marie Vans in the physical world and amvans lapis in most virtual worlds. And my part today is about the instructor perspective from a few different spotlight presentations at VWBPE 2024. I will start out by quickly defining what I mean by instructor perspective. Then I'll jump right in and describe a talk by May Diami on a teacher-created dinosaur metaverse project. A presentation titled Old West Blazing World Hero Adventure, presented by Spinoza Quinnell, will be covered next. And somewhat related to that presentation, I will jump into a description of The Myth of a Master Storyteller by Lear Lobo. The final talk I'll cover is Enhancing Criminal Law Education Through Machinima by Janet Hill. I'll wrap up with some key takeaways and conclusions. So the instructor perspective focuses on presentations at VWBPE 2024 conference that demonstrate how to integrate virtual worlds into educational experiences. These are real-world examples of successful incorporation of the use of virtual environments into curriculums. This is an important perspective for inspiring instructors to utilize these 3D tools for their own teaching. I also wanted to mention that it was difficult to winnow down the talks to highlight, as there were so many good examples. As the title of this SL Expert Series expresses, we are doing an overview in the hopes that you will take the opportunity to watch these and other presentations on the YouTube channel. And obviously, we encourage you to reach out and network with these educators for encouragement for your own educational adventures. Okay, so the first presentation I'll cover is one by Dr. William F. Schmattenberg, PhD, also known as Day Miami in here, called A Teacher-Created Dinosaur Metaverse Project. Now, Day had three goals he wanted to address for the study using a dinosaur metaverse VR experience. These included understanding how to create a multiplayer VR in virtual world, what it costs to create one of these types of simulations, and what are the best practices for implementing these VR worlds in an actual classroom. So he developed the simulation with the help of Dinosaur Ridge in Denver, Colorado, the Virginia Museum of Natural History, and a donor. This collaboration of different experts led to several versions of the simulation: a single player, a multiplayer, and a web-based version. The world itself is based on fossils that were found at Dinosaur Ridge in Colorado, and artificial intelligence and GPS were added to the experience so the virtual dinosaur could follow users around. The simulation was presented at the Virginia Museum of Natural History's Dinosaur Festival in 2023, and at least 300 guests tried the experience there, and survey data was collected. The simulation was also presented a second time at the Franklin County High School in Virginia, and data was again collected. To understand the question of how to create a multiplayer VR virtual world, not only were all the experts assembled to collaborate on it, hardware and software was not only needed for implementation of the simulation. Expertise on the use of these tools was also required. So to determine the cost of creating the simulation, irrespective of the labor, it took $1,424 to acquire the models, the software tools, the server costs, and other software related expenses. But what's not shown here, a single workstation that consists of a laptop and headset costs approximately $1,700. So this Chromebooks without headsets were also used for web-based versions. So, however, only $2,340 were raised for this project, So it does not include the laptops and the headset costs. So the final goal of determining the best practices can be gleaned from the data collected from the surveys after each study. The multiplayer versions was the most preferred at the festival where 79% preferred the VR/multiplayer version. For the surveys done at Franklin County High School, 80% of the students liked VR and 78% thought it helped them to learn better. However, scores between pre and post quizzes only went up by 10%, so it can't really be argued that they did learn better in that condition. Interestingly, though, the scores did go up 30% when teachers were in the environment with their students and could point out where to look for things, and when teachers did a review before administering the post quiz. So student scores had a very large increase, up to 90% better. So now I'll cover the Old West Blazing World Hero Adventure, which was presented by Andrew Strickler, also known as Spinoza Quinnell, in Second Life. So Spinoza is part of Virtual Harmony, which is an open simulator-based educational simulation grid. The Old West Blazing World Hero Adventure uses ideas from Margaret Cavendish's book called Blazing World and Lord Raglan's book called The Hero. The simulation is an interactive learning adventure that implements Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey model. This includes a call to adventure, reluctance to face unknown, interpreting challenges, reflection on plan, adjustment to plan, transformation, insight and maturity, and evaluation and learning insight. The experience is set in a Western town called Sundance, and it gives learners clues and tasks to perform while using the code of the West. The image on the right contains the code, which I don't know if you can read that or not, because again, I like John, I took screenshots. So technology-wise, the simulation integrates artificial intelligence in the form of GPT 3.5 Turbo and GPT 4.0. These are implemented in the Red Queen bot, which interacts with learners in chat and also available on web-based interface. The Red Queen instructs learners on the code of the West as well as in the reflection gallery. The code of the West includes AI-generated images that communicate a specific code. For example, the code show respect. A back-end database collects learning data for later analysis on what the students are doing in the adventure. The data also helps in determining how to improve the experience for learners. So there were two main conclusions expressed in the presentation. First, when you add web-based games and AI, immersive 3D world adventures helps to promote interactive, engaging, and deeper learning. Second, opportunities to contemplate the continued relevance of the code of the West using a hero adventure can promote change of perspectives and a deeper understanding of the timeless qualities of myth for impacting popular cultures and lifestyles. Again, I wanted to point out that the simulation itself is on 18 different grids in Open Simulator, but not in Second Life, unfortunately. A related talk by Cynthia Cologne, or Lear Lobo, in Second Life, called The Myth of a Master Storyteller, is the next presentation I will cover. Here the goal is to explore the myth of the storyteller by beginning with the question, what did Joseph Campbell mean by the power of myth? There are four primary functions of mythology, including the mystical, or mystery, cosmological, or the link between an individual's knowledge and experience to the mysteries of the universe, sociological, or defining and validating the norms of an individual's society, and psychological, or relating to culture. I apologize for the background noise. Mythic Origin, the theme of this year's VWBPE conference, ties into the power of myth and our journey as educators to the hero's journey. Our origin story is the hero's journey, and questions we can ask of ourselves include what is our origin story here in Second Life or in virtual worlds? And why are we teaching and learning in these spaces? Did we get the call to action? For me, it was seeing the power of these platforms for delivering distance education. Do you feel a reluctance to the call? These questions align with the hero's journey. So as an educator who has taught for many years in virtual worlds, Lear has several lessons she shared from teaching in these 3D worlds. First, use apprenticeship and design learning experience together with your students in 3D spaces. Next, use appreciative inquiry to see the value in everything you and your student do. The image on the bottom left shows what appreciative inquiry is, and there is a process for promoting positive change, which includes asking about what's good. Embrace the intimacy and alchemy of the learning genome, which means the impact of neurons on cognitive functions in the learning process. I have a URL here that you can go visit to learn more about that. Okay, so the final talk I'll cover is called Enhancing Criminal Law Education Through Machinima, which was presented by Janet Hill or Madeline McMinar in Second Life. So this was an exemplar of the use of machinima for teaching. Professor Luis Arias, who teaches criminal justice at the University of Texas at El Paso, was looking for a way to use technology for better engaging his students in his criminal justice courses. He worked with UTEP's Creative Studios, who have a presence in Second Life, to create machinimas of case studies that he normally just reads to students during class. He figured that reading only appeals to those with auditory skills, but this isn't helpful for those who are visual learners, which constitutes about 60% of the population. He discovered that you can use machinimas to do reenactments of case studies, which would be more helpful for visual learners. Using machinimas in this way helps to inspire other professors to adopt these technologies because they encourage more active participation by the audience. Okay, if I can click that, okay. For the reenactments specific to Dr. Arias's courses, one of the main characteristics is that they must be sensitive to the victim's families because they reenact real crime cases. This translates into the importance of not sensationalizing the crimes themselves. He arrived at this machinima approach after rejecting a few other alternatives such as animation, which takes too long, and using real actors and finding good filming location, which is also time consuming. Instead, he contacted Creative Studios and they were able to show him the power of machinima for reenactment. They worked together to create the materials that eventually became part of Dr. Arias's classroom. To create the machinima, Creative Studios used props from the SL Marketplace, used Blender to create 3D models of the buildings used for the landmarks where the real crime took place. They also created avatars that closely resembled the characters and added animations to them to add realism. Finally, they trained undergraduate students to manipulate the avatars for the reenactments. So the outcomes of the use of these reenactments are encouraging. The machinima allows students to understand and retain the information more effectively. Dr. Arias found that the visual information works much better for visual learners than reading the definitions alone. As part of the class, once the students have viewed the machinima, several questions are asked to help cement the knowledge and make sure the students understand what crimes were actually committed, what are the specific definitions of those crimes, what are the links of the identified crime or crimes to the facts of the crime, and finally, what feedback do they have about the experience? So looking at these selected presentations, the key takeaway include the following. Instructors use virtual worlds for learning across the metaverse. Teaching impact in virtual worlds can be measured. Stories are a powerful mechanism for teaching and student engagement, and collaboration is the key to creating great teaching experiences in virtual worlds. So in conclusion, tell stories in virtual worlds if you want your stories to engage with the learning material. We had too many great presentations to cover them all. So here is a link to the YouTube channel that has all of them in there. And finally, I want to thank VWPPE for the conference and the presenters for their great presentations, and to VWEC for the opportunity to do this short presentation. Now I'm going to turn it over to Valibrarian.
Yes, our third and final presenter is Valerie Hill, known in Second Life as Valibrarian Gregg, and she's going to review the technology perspective, the last of our three perspectives. Over to you, Val.
Thank you. Thank you, Meryl and John and Marie. Hello, everyone. As Meryl said, I'm Valerie Hill, Valibrarian in Virtual Worlds, and I'll also be using a speakeasy. I do invite you to jot down some questions or some feedback, as some of our VWBPE 2024 presenters are right here with us in the audience today. Listening to the student perspectives that John just gave us and the instructor perspectives from Marie, we've seen already some great examples of technological possibilities in the metaverse. My portion, I'll be talking about that technology perspective. Numerous presentations at the conference this year, VWBPE 2024, shared a variety of tools for implementing technology into the metaverse. Number one, using AI in virtual worlds and education. This was a focus of a fascinating quadrivium, which was a philosophical discussion led by John O'Connor. Understanding the pros and cons of artificial intelligence, generative AI in particular, will be essential to education in the future, and disruptive impact is happening right now. This session delved into the concepts that surround AI to contemplate the question, what is reality? Are we limited in our understanding of reality? Coming to an understanding about the nature of reality is the human quest and has been throughout history. Utilizing the metaverse, which is a simulation of reality, requires creation of an embodiment of the self into a computerized version or an avatar. In addition, this presentation shared a video from neuroscientists called "Is There External Reality?" These neuroscientists argue that reality is not what we think. The more scientists learn about the nature of existence, the more questions arise. for those of us who have adopted the metaverse as a real place, multiple realities make perfect sense. I'll give you the link to the video, Is There External Reality? Creating an avatar, the embodiment of your identity in the metaverse, requires using technology, and 2 presentations at the conference delved into the technology of creating avatars. John O'Connor and James Neville presented Avatar Identity with Intent. And I really highlight that word, intent. It is with intent that we can embody ourselves authentically. You can view them on the channel, and Marie gave you the link to all of the presentations. Now, gamers may utilize 3D game characters and interact with NPCs, non-player characters, but avatars in the metaverse are real people. And it's important for us to understand and adapt identity by declaration of one's own initiatives, particularly when utilizing the metaverse for education. Bethany Winslow, Bethany the Virtual in Virtual Worlds, and Marie Vans, AM Lapis, shared biased assumptions about avatars and identities. These educators shared a survey that had some surprising results about the way one represents themselves in virtual worlds through creating an avatar. While most survey respondents agreed that customization of an avatar is very important, they did not all agree that it is necessary to create a human form avatar. The survey addressed avatar identities by age group, by gender, by years of experience, and surprisingly, the number of years of experience in virtual worlds did not play a major role in how one views an avatar closely resembling their physical attributes. How people perceive accessories and the clothing worn by avatars was illustrated in this slide. And this particular survey question: is the avatar shown below carrying a weapon or promoting violence? The avatar pictured caused a misinterpretation of a violent weapon as an accessory, which was unintentional. This misunderstanding of the avatar's attire led to denial of using the platform by a colleague, and serves as an example of how creating avatars can be problematic, especially for those new to virtual environments. Another session that shared a different perspective on the implementation of technology was called Learning Entrepreneurship in Virtual Reality. This was presented by Duigu Gur, Dalia Dudu. Dalia shared a course on meta entrepreneurship at Shaw University, which is in Turkey, which combined marketing and management education with practical application in order to explore the potentials of the metaverse in stimulating real-life, sustainable entrepreneurship. During the presentation, the students entered the digital dark box, a room where they could delve into the problems that technology has brought us with the internet and digital culture, and then they were asked to embed digital citizenship into the project. Students were required to research, create, and sell virtual products in the Second Life platform. This was a 14-week course for international business management, finance, banking, trade, logistics, and English language interpretation students. The course required planning for a final project marketing campaign. And you can find the recording link here. This presentation illustrated using embedding new technologies in the metaverse for serious purposes, and it suggests immersive learning can provide unique opportunities beyond a traditional physical classroom. The metaverse offers immersive educational experiences, allowing students to explore virtual classrooms and participate in simulations without physical limitations. Traditional classrooms struggle to create immersive experiences, reflecting the intricacies of sustainable challenges, while metaverse platforms enable active and participatory learning, promoting global collaboration and a deeper understanding of sustainability's global implications. Finally, Kay Novak presented Mythic Dungeons, Where Legends Are Made, which shared an online virtual game competition. I was intrigued by duo ethnography and the use of Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, combined in ways that happen infrequently in real life. My own teaching philosophy aligns well with Vygotsky, and I think building in the metaverse is a perfect match with his constructive learning theory. Duo ethnography is a collaborative research methodology in which two or more researchers juxtapose their life histories in order to provide multiple understandings of a social phenomenon. The conclusions may transfer to learning in the metaverse, as you can see that the best results in the competition were from teams with unique collaborative strategies. We heard earlier about this from both John and Marie. The student perspective, the instructive perspective, collaboration is key. Here's the link to the recording from the conference. So these presentations are some of the presentations from the conference that emphasized technology. And when we get ready to open up for questions, feel free to use the local chat or voice to ask a question or to comment on sessions from the Virtual World's Best Practices in Education Conference 2024. And
Thank you,
Meryl, I'll
Val.
turn it to you. Thank you.
Okay. I had to turn on my mic. Imagine that. Thank you, Val. And wow, I never cease to be amazed by the talent, expertise, and creativity found in SL, in virtual worlds. Thank you, John, Marie, and Val, for your presentations. Now is the time for questions. I did not see any questions typed into chat, so I have nothing to start us off with. Are there questions that come from the audience? They can be in chat, they can be in voice. We have several minutes here. Or observations, comments. Okay, first question, what are the main challenges to keep students and educators engaged? Oh, who would like to handle that one?
I can say one thing
Actually
that I
asked
found.
that question
Go ahead.
in Second Life or in the natural world. They're kind of perennial issues, aren't they? Keeping both staff and students engaged. I guess the challenges in a virtual world is to justify why you're teaching in a virtual world as opposed to in the natural world. So I always think there has to be a reason and a rationale for why we do what we do here. And that can vary. For me, it's always been the opportunity for intercultural engagement. So I've taught over the years with an American colleague in University of Akron in Ohio, currently working with Magwa in Turkey, along with colleagues right across the US and in other European countries. But there are various other reasons and rationale, and I guess each individual who's working here has their own. Thank you.
Okay, Val, you wanted to...
Sure. I just wanted to add that I have found that teaching has changed in the physical world dramatically due to the age where we live in a state of distraction on our digital devices. So the physical classrooms also have the challenge of keeping their students engaged. And I've found that in the virtual world, we have the ability to allow students to build and create much more than we do in the physical world. You can't res a million cubes in your classroom, but you can in the metaverse. And so rather than lecturing and dropping a lot of information into the brains of the students, we can immerse them in experiences where they're much more engaged than they are if they are just listening. We can address many more learning styles for our students when we engage them in an immersive environment.
Okay, I'll second that. We did have a question. We were asked to define machinima.
It's a portmanteau, meaning two words mashed together, machine plus cinema.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, but the last question, for my classes, I find that especially when we're in the not even the physical classroom, if we're doing online classes using Zoom or Teams or one of these other virtual platforms, that in general students will not turn on their cameras and they will not engage while in that environment. However, if I bring them into a virtual environment as avatars, suddenly they're all talking at once. They're all, and it doesn't even matter if we're all sitting in a virtual classroom with me presenting slides on a slide deck inside Spatial. Just the fact that being inside that virtual environment as an avatar does something for them to get excited about engaging with the material.
Yes, I understand exactly what she's saying. I teach lots of students during the year, and the teaching culture has changed dramatically in the last half decade. Okay, so Bethany's, like what Maria is saying, on Zoom, people won't use the cameras or engage, but Getting in World does something about getting them engaged with the material. I totally agree. And then Sidearm said something about being an avatar excites students.
I'm sorry, Meryl. I'm just transcribing when they're not typing. That's all. You don't have to read it again.
Well, you're doing a really good job of it too, and I just reinforced it. So, do we have questions? Other questions? Comments?
Just while we're waiting for another question, Meryl, I just wanted to bring up something that came up in one of the presentations about learning styles. And I'm just going to post a link here to a paper from 2020 from the University of Swansea, I think it is, in Wales. There's been a lot of work done on debunking the notion of learning styles. Now, I wouldn't necessarily agree with all of it, and people do have slightly different approaches to learning, but certainly since the beginning of this century, it is advised that we don't get overly enthusiastic and spending too much time on worrying about different learning styles. So that's just a little warning, and there's a very useful paper. A quick search on Google Scholar or anywhere else will deliver up lots more. So there's been a lot of work done on that. However, I think the notion of narrative and creating stories is what's important, and that is certainly very engaging for all of us, whether it's students or any other public you're trying to get in contact with. Thanks.
That's very, very helpful, John. Thank you. Thank you for that link.
So Meryl,
Any
sidearm.
questions, observations?
Yes, sidearm
sorry.
here with an observation. I watched the criminal law machinima presentation, and I was very impressed with it. In fact, after I watched the first one, I could not watch the rest of them. I had to turn the sound off. But what caught my attention in Marie's summary was in two cases, which that was one of them. There was no measurable learning until and unless the instructor subsequently followed up and reinforced what they had experienced either in VR or what they'd experienced in watching the machinima. In the machinima, the key points were what was the law that was broken. And if anybody here has been on war DA or whatever called jury duty, you know how carefully the lawyers tell you this is what's at issue. No matter what you think, what your opinion about right and wrong, this is what the law says, and this is what the case will be argued about. So that caught my attention. It still needs the instructor to have a role, which is, I guess, reassuring for all of us that are instructors, and together the immersive VR experience or the machinima recreation make a double whammy powerful effect. Over.
Yeah, that's really
Thank you,
true.
Sidearm.
That was really true. Like in Day's example, the learning went through the roof after the instructor got involved, right? Um, so yeah, I think I think that's a really good point.
Also a source of optimism for those of us who are instructors. We're still needed. Other observations, questions?
Yes, Meryl, it's Sidearm again. The thing about
Yeah.
storytelling and narrative, and thank you for trying to summarize what I'm saying, Bethany. Okay, I'm going to think out loud a little bit. There's no doubt that a well-crafted story, whether it's anime, which I'm watching a lot of now, or a Hollywood movie or a Bollywood movie, can hit you in the gut, just like the machinima did for the criminal law. The point is, those stories, how do I say this? They're not amateurs. Those stories are crafted and designed, whether they're writers or playwrights. So there's an art. If we're going to use stories to reinforce our learning, not only do we have to get good at VR, we got to get good at crafting the storytelling so we can make those learning points like Day was doing, make those learning points like the professor of criminal law was doing. It's yet another skill to add to our toolkit. Just to make it, don't just wave your head and say, have a good story. No, you got to craft the story. Over.
Very interesting point.
Gentle
Any
Heron
response
has
to
made,
that?
sorry,
Yes.
Meryl, Gentle Heron has made a point in text about narrative and stories, and she's saying that she doesn't like stories, doesn't like to learn from stories. I don't want to misquote her, so I'm going to go back and find. Lost it now. I think it's an important point, so it's worth. Lost it. Sorry. Yes, she says, people like me, and I may be a minority, but I do not learn well from stories, and I really strongly dislike games. So I think these are important points to be aware of. I have found in my teaching also that the students I'm teaching strongly dislike games also. They also strongly dislike cartoony avatars because they feel that it infantilizes them and somehow implies that their learning is not serious. And I've found the same over the years with games. It does, I've noticed, change with the discipline that you're working in. And this is anecdotal, but what I have noticed is that tech people tend to love cartoons and animation and games and jokes, whereas arts and humanities students detest that. So we do need to be very careful when we're preparing our learning material. So it isn't so much about learning styles, it's about perhaps the starting point of the student and the discipline that you're involved in.
Sidearm here. I want to build on John and build on Gentle. So I kind of get what Gentle you're saying about not liking games. I hate first-person shooters, except I'll watch them, but I'll never play them. But Gentle, one of the most impactful presentations I ever attended that you gave was where you said things like, cover your ears while I make the next 2 minutes. Cover your eyes while I do the next 2 minutes. Sit on your hands while I do the next 2 minutes. And okay, to me that was, call it interactive role play or something, but it was kind of like a game. If you think about kids, hide and seek, put a blindfold on. But it was a learning game with a clear intent. Again, a crafted intent in the background. So we have to be careful when we say games because it's too generic. It's like a story is to me, it's too generic. If we're going to use it, like, I go back to my point, it's a part of our toolkit, and figure out why is it sometimes effective and why is it sometimes turning people off. To me, that's the most intriguing thing. And all respect to you, Gentle. Over.
Any response? Any other?
This fed into one of the VWBPE discussions, one of the review discussions that we had last week in the VWEC. It was some games are isolating when we play them because they're individual player games, or they can feel pre-programmed, and also some game or some experiences are real world when we're in the virtual world, such as you need to actually sell something here and demonstrate economic viability. I think Dodge Three Beards was describing this scenario, whereas that's very different what I was thinking about economics, where you play a game to prove the concept. So the immersive experience is not necessarily a game, so I really appreciate the distinction Gentle was pointing out.
Syrian also posted something interesting in chat where she's suggesting that we are in danger of ending up expecting too much from teachers. We can't become good storytellers, good makers, good builders, good everything. And in a way, we do need to be very careful about developing games and stories and so on, because people who do that for a living are really, really good at it. Those who dip in and out of it may not be as good. And as teachers, we're not necessarily going to be good at doing it. So it isn't just about storytelling, it's about good storytelling and relevant storytelling. And there is a huge amount of pressure being put on teachers as it is, trying to deal with technology without expecting, scientists to learn how to tell stories to their students and make machinima and so on and so forth. So one good way around that, of course, is collaboration and bringing students from different disciplines and teachers from different disciplines together. But we do need to keep an eye on overburdening teachers also.
Yes, exactly. The criminal law people hadn't a clue on how to make a machinima, John. But as Marie pointed out, they collaborated with that studio. The studio knows how to make machinima, which are movies using VR instead of real life, blah, 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 blah. But they wouldn't have known to make a criminal law. So the criminal law people collaborated with the studio people. So maybe one possibility, although this is another skill for Cerium, is, get good at collaborating. Or maybe some teachers get good at collaborating, some teachers are good at this, some are at that, and they work with each other on a team. Over.
Okay, we're coming to the end of our session. We want to give everybody a hearty thank you for their presentations. You in the audience are invited to gather informally on the deck at the back of the venue to ask additional questions or to offer comments if you wish. Please note that the next installment of the VWEC Expert Series will be on Friday, April 26th at 1 p.m. SLT. We will feature Darcy Linden and Midori Linden, who will tell us how to unlock the virtual frontier using AI. I can't wait. Finally, you can find links to our in-world calendar and related helpful information in the material that I will add to the text. And we can be reached through a variety of media. Once again, please see the text that I provide shortly. So again, my thanks to the audience for joining us today and for participating in a very instructive manner. I learned a lot. Let me invite you to reconvene at the back of the venue for light refreshment. Being virtual, it's really light, and conversation. Thank you.